And hello, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I am your host, Coach Elex, and with me I have a very special co host,
Stephen Frederick is here.
Stephen Frederick, the medium. He happens to also be my amazing, wonderful husband. So, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Hello, Stephen. Today we have an amazing show right here, right now, stepping into a new reality. And geez, that's quite an appropriate thing for today. Stephen, we've had quite an eventful day yesterday. You want to tell people what's up?
Yeah, I don't know if you can label it eventful because it was so much more, as you know, Elix.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
but
don't
it,
know how to label it, so I'm
I know,
using eventful out of the lack of how to really label such an I don't know, such an event. But I'll let you tell people what happened.
so yesterday I was in my office and I had clients. I finished with one client. It was two women who were great, and they left. And I had 30 minutes in between my next client. And when I got to the office, I had watered, which my plant, which I love. I call him Guineo, which is banana in Spanish, because he's huge. And I watered him before my first client came. So I swing around, and I just checked the pot, and I noticed that I watered it too much, and I had excess water in it, and I didn't want the plant to sit in it. So I said, let me do this now. So I moved the plant, and I have in my office. First of all, I'm on second floor, and I also have a private entrance because I'm in the corner, and on each this building is pretty big, but on each corner of the building there is this very, very steep, even though I never looked at the other one, so I don't know about the other one, but the one I use and the entrance I use only to get in and out of my office, not my clients, but just me. It's a really steep, long staircase that goes up to this very small landing, and there's the first door that I have to unlock, and then I get into this little hallway, and then there's my door to go into my office. So I went to grab the pot with the little bit of water in it, and because it's the back and side, even though it's second floor, it really is like a third floor because of the way the building's set and the angle of the land, and underneath me is just cement and another staircase going into the basement. There's never anybody there. So I went on the platform, the little landing, and I leaned over just to make sure no one was below me. And it's just like where I was throwing the water, it's just grass. And I was emptying this pot out, and I felt my feet sort of moving, and I didn't know what was going on. So I turned to look at the building because I was looking, I was looking away from the building. And when I turned to look at the building, the entire structure, the entire staircase, which is huge, and the landing I was on was actually removed. It detached from the building. It was I'd say about an inch away from the building. It was no longer attached, and I could see the screws like sitting like out of the structure, no longer attached. And I dropped the pot in a split second. I just leaped from where I was, at the as far away as I could be because I was leaning over, to throw the water out. And I leaped, and as I leaped, I felt the back of my leg just like leaving the deck, leaving the little landing, and I got my left leg on the doorway, and thank the Lord, which I usually close the door when I go out there, but I didn't. Thank God I didn't. And I just grabbed the doorknob and pulled myself, the rest of my body up. And I was on one knee, and I got up, and as that was happening, oh, Elix, and I know I've said this to you a couple of times, I heard a noise I never want to hear again. I heard crackling, and then all of a sudden I heard just this crash, this smash, and I turned around, and there was no more landing. There were no more stairs. The entire structure fell into the ground, and I'm still. Last night I didn't sleep at all. Elix, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm on something, meaning that the anxiety in my body is still not calmed down. I don't feel tired even though I didn't sleep, and I just keep replaying like what happened. And I immediately, and it took me forever to call Elix because I was shaking so much. I couldn't get my password in my phone to open it up. And finally, when I did, poor Elix is an hour away, and I'm screaming that I was on the deck, and it collapsed, and he didn't know where did I fall with it? But
Well,
ultimately, Elix called 911, and the fire and police came, and ambulance came, and it was just a horrible, horrible experience. I mean, I say that I know I'm saying it's a horrible experience, but I'm here. I'm okay. I'm safe. I somehow, with there's no way this was not spirit intervention, angel intervention that got me back on that doorway. I still don't know how I did it, but where you see the platform and where it landed, because the platform was the highest part where I was standing, and it just went sideways and it went the furthest out. So if I stayed on that platform, I mean, I would have either been dead or broken back, broken neck, broken legs, head injury.
severely injured,
Yeah.
no question
Yeah.
about it.
And if I didn't make the leap and fell from it, or if I did make the leap but couldn't hold myself up and fell, I would have fallen straight down into even a further fall, because that's where the basement is, and just concrete. So no matter which way you look at it, either way, I would have been severely injured or not here. And it's just, even talking about it right now, I'm just shaking, just visually seeing that. And then after it happened, standing at that doorway to go to the stairs, and there's nothing there anymore. Like, I'm looking down, like the second, the third floor level, and just looking down at ground. There's nothing there. It was. I know I'm sort of stuttering, Elix. It's still so fresh because it just happened yesterday afternoon, and
Hmm.
um, last night I kept trying to stop my brain from, like, it was like a rotation. I could not. I kept saying, but that didn't happen. Like, I did make it, but I could not stop my brain from the what if I was
Hmm.
on there and if I fell. And so, needless to say, last night there was. I think this is the first time in my life I did not sleep at all last night.
Yeah. Well, it's called post traumatic stress disorder, and it's very, very real. And our brain is that's how our brain works, and that's not to say that you are not grateful, that you're not very present to gratitude and to the fact that you were able to leap into the landing, that you were able to hold on, that you survived. That doesn't mean any of the above. In fact, you and I are both very grateful, and believe me when I tell you, I'm on my knees thanking God and Spirit and the universe for saving you. But it doesn't take away from the traumatic experience of having having been near that death experience. By the way, when Steven says he's on a second level, the way the building was built, there's a basement. So in essence, it really was a 3 story. It would have been a 3 story fall, and I've been there many times. So when he called me and he described what happened, I was in panic mode because I could barely understand Stephen. I didn't know whether he fell with the ladder, with the staircase. I didn't know whether he was okay. I know he could barely formulate a sentence, so I knew he couldn't call anyone. So I needed to call 911, and it was again, it was pretty scary, and then of course it's pouring. I know I needed to get to Stephen as soon as possible, and it's, of course, it's pouring. You can barely see in front of you. I couldn't go fast. I had to slow down. I had to be careful. But thankfully, a couple of things did happen. Our friends, our very, very good friends, Barbara, the Barchelders, Erica, they live very nearby. So I was able to call them. And of course, they got to Stephen before I was able to get there. And I'm super grateful. And also a shout out to, Marie Pepin from Wayland Associates, because she happened to be very, very helpful in guiding me and helping me sort of, calm down and make the phone calls and put myself together so I could get to Stephen. But Stephen, and you and I have talked about this. It's almost like when we're talking to Donna this morning, when she said that experiences like this, force you to sort of like be present to what it is that we got, and
in reset.
oh yeah, it forces you to a reset, and resets are really important because they get our whole system to reboot and work better. But I personally, oh my goodness, I can't. There's no words to express the level of gratitude that I feel that you're here, and that you're safe, and emotionally, of course, you suffer a pretty traumatic experience, um, and physically you're here, and I'm beyond grateful, Stephen.
No,
Yeah.
Elix, I can't imagine also you because you were an hour away, and if that was me, I would have been. I don't know how I would have been, but when the firemen came and the ambulance came and the police came, and hearing, they asked me my name, and I told them Steven, and they said you were on that when it was falling, and I mean every one of them just kept saying you had someone. It's just a little emotional. You had someone watching you because it wouldn't have ended. It wouldn't have ended good if you didn't get back to that ledge. And then after we were just getting. I wanted to get out of there so badly, just to get away from it. Erica and Barbara, who, like you said, Elix, we love, that came running over. Erica grabbed the pot I was holding that I was emptying, and when she showed it to me, it was completely destroyed. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we're here, Stephen, and
yes,
we've known all along that we have plenty of guides behind us, and
yeah,
there's no question. You share earlier, the experience of feeling wings getting you to the ledge,
I did.
and there's no question that you definitely spirit put the wings on your back to get you safe because you got plenty of work to do.
I guess
You are
so.
not done. And I'm forever grateful. I mean, Stephen and I have been together 30 years, and I often joke about how did I make it for 30 years with Stephen, but I don't think I could imagine what life would be like without Stephen, by my side. So, again, I speak gratitude because I am forever grateful to everyone in spirit who helped you. So,
Me too.
and Stephen, we have to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about our subject today, right here, right now, step into a new reality with an amazing guest, my friend, of course, Mark Worcester. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my wonderful co host,
Stephen, the medium, is here.
Stephen the Medium. And today, more than ever, I'm super grateful to have him by my side. Many of you listening to our last segment heard the very close and near death experience that Stephen experienced yesterday. And today we have an amazing guest. We're talking about what an appropriate conversation right here, right now, stepping into a new reality. And we have my friend Mark Wooster. Mark, an entrepreneur, leader, wellness and reality coach, a mental health healthcare professional. Mark brings a passion and a joy to everything he does, from being a chairman of a board of a $20 million health services agency to being a certified yoga instructor to a keynote speaker. Mark has accumulated an impressive array of diverse experiences. Known for his charismatic, high energy approach to life, Mark has led many groups to successful completion of their missions. His legacy is to be the vessel that inspires people to step outside their human experience and embrace their true nature, using the tools gathered over a lifetime of spiritual exploration. Mark guides you into a new reality. And I am so happy, so thrilled to have him back. Welcome back, my friend.
Well, good afternoon.
How are you, Mark? Welcome back. Thank you for being back on our show.
Oh, so glad to be here, Elix. Stephen, how are you today?
I'm getting better, Mark. Thanks for
Oh,
asking.
my gosh. Yeah. Right here, right now. How appropriate is that? Oh,
How,
my God. I'm
how
so glad
appropriate.
you're right here, right
No, thank you, Mark.
Me too, Mark. And we are glad
now.
that you're right here, right now. So let's first and foremost, Mark, congratulations on the launch of Medicine Man. Medicine Man awakens leaders to their full potential. So tell us a little bit about your journey and the work that you have been doing.
Wow. This is, I live the most incredible life, I have to tell you. I mean, Helix and Stephen, having been friends for a while now and colleagues. Um, it's just every day is a new adventure for me. And, I've been blessed to be a part of Entrepreneurs Organization for the last 10 years. And, there was a guy that he and I hit it off virtually, well, 3 or 4 years ago. We'd never met face to face, but we'd been part of this psychedelics group and conversation about psychedelic plant medicine and such. And you know, we've just become such great friends. And we had an opportunity to be on a retreat a month or so ago out of the country, and we went into this retreat together thinking, hey, you know what, we're going to collaborate on something. We don't know what the universe has in store for us, but we're going to show up and we're going to have this experience, and we'll see what comes from it. And it was just one of the most amazing moments that I've had in my life, and I'm sure he'd say the same. Where we came away with this whole new idea about medicine men and about collaboration between my friend Ronan and I. And so we are now partners. He's out of Johannesburg, South Africa, and of course I'm here in the Boston area. And so we've begun formulating and working on Medicine Men, and that is, it's a community. It's an offering to the world for really doing that, awakening leaders to their full potential. And that means utilizing all sorts of various tools that he and I have accumulated over the years. And we're just so excited to be in this space of transformation that the world is actually going through at this time.
Now, Mark, I know that you've referred to that retreat back in July, I believe it's when you went to Costa Rica, as a spiritual journey. What made it a spiritual journey for you?
Oh gosh, Felix, everything ends up being a spiritual journey for me, but this truly was. This was this was the next step along my pathway using sacred plant medicine, and it was an ayahuasca retreat. And, for those who don't know, ayahuasca is a very sacred plant medicine from the Amazon basin. It's a combination of a root from one tree and the leaves from another. And, I will be happy to get into sort of the pharmacology around how those two combined work. But it really is a sacred plant medicine. And so it is a spiritual adventure. And, they say it gives you what you need, not what you want. And that is clearly what my experience was.
Well, and that's interesting because you have shared that there is a common myth that in your line of work that psychedelics are really dangerous drugs. But I know that you've noted that there's sacred healing medicines, as you just described, right? When they're used with respect, when they're used with reverence, they can actually bring complete transformation and healing. You know, what would you say is your experience in using psychedelics for mental health?
Psychedelics and mental health, psychedelics take you from one way of thinking and expose you to, sort of this collective reality that we're just unaware of. And it's so hard to explain to people because it's such an experiential thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to the way that I explain it to people is I could talk to you about an orgasm forever, but until you actually have one, you're not really going to know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that usually resonates with people because they're like, yes. So it really is an experiential matter, and everybody's experience is going to be different because everybody's pre-programming and sort of wiring is different. But in the mental health space, there has just been so much research done around psychedelics, the various psychedelics, whether you're talking about LSD, which, a whole ton of research was done because it was, really sort of extracted and created in the lab from a plant, and actually ergot, which is a fungus. And so, the scientific community did a ton of research for many, many, many years before it was outlawed for political reasons. So there's a lot of research specifically in mental health. So they hold great promise. And that's really what the excitement is about, and what you read about in a lot of the newspapers and online media now about psychedelics is that they are very, very healing and transformative in the mental health space.
Now, of course, today's show, we titled it Right Here, Right Now, and that comes from your personal philosophy, right here, right now. Why do you think that matters, and how is this related to this transformational journey you've been experiencing over the last several months?
All of the things that I've done over the years, Felix, really, if I look back at them, all of the various things that I've done in sort of the spiritual realm, or the, sort of that quest for the meaning of life, I guess, all have been driving towards really creating the experience of living in the right here, right now. Like, for instance, I meditate a lot, and I've really dove into a meditative practice over the course of the last 15 years anyway. And that's really, really about allowing for the awareness of being in the moment. And so, you have Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now, which was a fabulous book, and a few other ones as follow-ons to that. It's the power of living in the moment, like the moment that we have right here, right now, that we're talking about, you and I, the three of us together, and everybody who's listening, this moment, this is where the transformation exists. This is where possibility exists. This is where life exists. And yet, as human beings, we live in the past, and we drag it into the future. We try to predict the future based on the past, and it's a very automated thing that we do. It's how our brains are wired. It's how we evolutionarily have stayed alive. We try to predict, is that rustling in the bushes a lion that's going to kill us? Maybe we step to the left here. You know what I mean? So we're wired to do these things. So the gift is in the work and in the psychedelics is that it takes us and brings us into the present moment. Psychedelics especially, there's one component of most psychedelic experiences, if not all, and that is the suspension of time. Time goes away. I mean, we know, Helix, you and I have specifically trained around time as just a sort of a notion. It's just an idea, a concept. Well, psychedelics suspend time. You live in the moment, and it's sublime, really.
Yeah, and I live by that. I mean, I often reminding myself, my clients, and the people around me that yesterday is a foregone conclusion. There's nothing you can do about yesterday. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to any of us. It is an illusion. All we got is right now. So I do believe in the power of the right here, right now conversation. But listen, Mark, there's many more questions I want to ask you, but we do have to take a break. So would you hang in there with us?
Oh, you know it, brother. I'm hanging right here.
And we'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix. With me, my incredible co-host,
Stephen Frederick is here.
Steven the Medium, is in the house. And today we are talking about right here, right now, creating a new reality. And we have Mark Booster, medicine man, and an amazing personal friend I've known for many, many years. Welcome back, Mark.
Good
And listen,
to be back.
Steven has a question. So, Steven, go ahead.
Mark, I love the just listening to you, and because the conversation is remarkably similar to when I teach classes on spirit and mediumship about staying in the present, and that's really, I call it the magic. That's where the magic happens, right? When you're in the present and
Yeah.
everything is happening, which I love. And the fact that you talked about how time is removed. Same thing I always tell people in my classes, that spirit, in spirit, there's no such thing as time. They don't have an essence of time. But my question is, Mark, if I came up to you and you did not know me and I just said, I've heard, not great things, in my experience, I've heard not great things about psychedelics or LSD or the kind of people that use them. But I'm curious about them, but I'm really afraid. Well,
Yeah.
how would you respond to that?
I would say, well, let's look at history. Let's see what kind of people have used these kinds of things, right? First off, I'd say that probably a little known fact for people who are outside of the psychedelic community is that for 2,000 years in Athens, Greece, during the golden age of Athenian and Greece being the epicenter of everything that was civilization, there was a group called the Eleusinian Mysteries. Okay? So every year they would take indoctrinees to this particular ceremony, and it was something that you worked towards during the year. You prepped for it, and it would be upwards of 3,000 people who would be, invited. And you were, by law, not allowed to talk about anything that happened there or what you were doing. And so think about this. For 2,000 years, this went on every year in September. And so they would bring them in, and they would have this whole ceremony that would include the drinking of a psychedelic medicine. Now, they have determined as much as they can that it was a sort of a derivative of LSD. It was from some of the wheat that was grown in the local fields. And so you had people like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Cicero. I mean, we're talking Emperor of Rome, right? So we're talking about the most influential people of that time, who really were like the cradle of all of our modern philosophy and politics and society. They all had this experience. Now they didn't tell you specifically what it was, but they said it was the most transformative experience of their lives. So those are the kind of people that have utilized these. Watson and Crick, they got the Nobel Prize for elucidating what DNA, the nature of DNA was, right? We're familiar with those folks. Well, the double helix twist that Crick, put forth as this is what DNA looks like, he got that while he was under the influence of LSD.
Wow.
So
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
Wow.
and this, okay, so here's another one. The spiritual side of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, right? Which has saved millions and millions of lives. That spiritual aspect of it that Bill Wilson came up with, that, is just an integral part of that program and its power. Well, that came to him during an LSD experience. So, these things have been used by people in a very positive and spiritual way. And I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, Elix, to your point. It's about the intent. So if you're coming at it from a sacred, exploratory, viewpoint with that intention, it's gonna guide what is happening. And so anytime we talk about plant medicines and psychedelics, we always talk about setting the proper intention and coming at it with the proper respect.
Mark,
You know
thank
what-
you for that response too, because I love how, Elix, not to interrupt, but I love how you just offset where I was coming from with people just having, oh no, it was just hippies that did that, or it's just homeless people that just did
Yeah,
that.
right,
And I
right.
love that. I mean, that was a strong argument that just completely dismantled, I think, what a lot of people think. So thank you.
It's a misconception, and it's all it is a misconception. That we're fed information, and we have to decide whether it's real or not. And how do we do that? I don't know. We talk to people around us, and if everybody says the world is flat, which they did for a very long time, well, guys, the
believe
world
that.
is flat.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
until it's not. So, yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say when you use the word, sacred and respect, Stephen, it brings me back to something that I know you feel very powerful, powerful about, which is in the spirit realm. There are people that may come to you that see spirit not, as a jokey, as something that is sort of like a joke, right?
Right.
And you've always taken exception to, you gotta come to me knowing, having a certain level of respect for what spirit does. And I almost heard the same thing in this conversation. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely makes sense to me.
I mean, we're dealing in the same genre. We're dealing with the same thing. I mean, this is spirit. This is not physical. I mean, this is something that doesn't operate on the same physical laws, right? And again, Stephen, you said it. I mean, there's just no time in the spirit world, and that for me, okay, I'm going to speak my own experience. For me, that was one of the things that psychedelics really, really brought home to me is that, I'm spirit, I'm eternal. Like I'm in this vessel, this human form for a short period of time, and but my nature is very much timeless and eternal, and so when you live from that perspective, and I think that's what my fellow, psychonauts, my people who utilize psychedelic medicines, I think we're all in this same space of living with this internal knowledge that that we're eternal, and I think that's
Yeah.
what Socrates got, and I think that's what Plato and Aristotle and Marcus Aurelius, all these people who have these amazing and just wild viewpoints, right?
hmm it's funny because you just talked about being that vessel, and that's part of your vision, your mission statement. So tell our listeners, when you talk about being that vessel, and you also talk about surrendering to the flow state, right? What
Hmm.
For somebody who's listening and they're asking themselves, but what does that mean? Can you explain to
Yeah,
our listeners what that means? What it could mean for them?
yeah. So for me, really recognizing that this is a vessel that I inhabit, and that changes the whole game. By the way, once you realize that it's a vessel that your eternal spirit is inhabiting, you start to treat it a whole hell of a lot better than you used to, right? I mean, there were times I did not treat this thing so very well. I'm I treat this with the utmost respect and honor, and come from that sacred viewpoint. But when you really know that this is a vessel that you're in, and you can adopt practices to kind of, I guess, step outside of the vessel as much as possible. Because I think for me, when you're in flow state, it's a dimming down of the human vessel, and it's more of a connection of spirit to source. And so, again, meditation, breath work, singing, music, all of these things, psychedelics, all of these things take you outside of the human experience and connect you more to source. And that is, for me, what flow state is. It's just this real connection to source. And that's where the creativity and the focus comes from.
I'm shocked because, again, Mark, I've known you for many years. I know what you do. We've been working together and for many years. And of course, here I am living with Stephen, living a very very connected spiritually. But as I'm listening to both of you speaking, I'm actually realizing the connectivity between these two conversations. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's one of the same.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
and I never thought about that. Stephen, what do you think?
I completely agree. That's why I made that comment that it was Mark. As Mark, you were speaking, I'm just checking off the list. Like, Wait, that's what I say. Wait a minute, that's what I say. I was just going down the list, like, hey,
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
exactly.
Yeah,
It is.
but
It
but
is.
but we've had we've had friends who've talked about psychedelics before.
Hmm.
Stephen, I know you know who we're talking about,
Yeah, yep.
but I never. I mean, I heard what was being said, but not until now did I connect that to the spirit realm.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same for you, Steven, but I mean, because I've known about psychedelics before, and I had those, friends, very close friends, talk about
Hmm.
their experience, but it was not until now that I'm like making that connection, that very real connection.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, stepping back to your experience that you just had, Stephen, and you talked, Helix, when you were talking earlier with Stephen, you were talking about PTSD and, you know, having this traumatic experience and it's going to be imprinted. And, that's just the what's so about how we are as human beings. That's how our brains work. We have these experiences and then they get imprinted and then we get stuck with it. And sometimes we get into a loop and that's what's happening with folks. And that's it's a very low level explanation about what goes on with PTSD, but you get stuck in that loop and you just continually live that like it's reality for you. You continually live that in a heightened state. Psychedelics are proving to be very effective in helping folks, especially MDMA, which, is going through many, many very, very strong trials at the moment. And, the Biden administration has said with both psilocybin, which are mushrooms, the psilocybin, the component, the psychedelic component in mushrooms and MDMA, they want to have those legal in 2 years. Like there are people experiencing profound transformative healing using those specific two medicines in those cases for PTSD.
Incredible, Mark. We got to take a break, but
Yep.
if you hang in there, when we come back, we'll continue this amazing conversation. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix. With me, my wonderful co-host,
Steven is here.
Stephen DeMedium, also my husband. And today we are talking with medicine man Mark Worcester, who happens to be my friend. And we're talking about right here, right now, creating a new reality. And Mark, welcome back first and
Yeah.
foremost. During the last segment, you made a comment. You used the term MDMA. I think I got that correctly. Can you describe what that is for listeners who may not be familiar with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, MDMA is a derivative of methamphetamine, and that immediately scares people, but it's known on the street as ecstasy. So, it has been used as an illicit party drug in the rave scene primarily in the 80s and 90s in up till now. Um, and, it's what they call an empathogen. And so what it does is it's considered a heart opening medicine. And so when you have this experience of MDMA, all of your barriers to connecting to someone else are gone, like they're melted away. All of these things, as human beings, we get programmed primarily in the first 7 years of our lives about how we're going to attach to other people. Our defenses are, built up, and all the walls are firmly in place. And so MDMA melts those away. So why it's so good with PTSD is that because it's a heart opening medicine, it allows you to sit with whatever that traumatic moment was, and it allows you to be there with it without that triggering panic, without that amygdala response, right? That part of the brain, the fight or flight. You're able to sit and be with whatever the traumatic event was, and you're able to work through it. So therapy with MDMA is, the client will take the MDMA and they'll sit. And if they want to talk, they'll talk, and the therapist will guide them through dealing with whatever that issue was. And honestly, the other modalities that we have, there aren't really no real other medications that work well with PTSD. I mean, there are some that we try to give, but they don't really work that well. And you may have EMDR, which is a great therapy involving rapid eye movement, desensitization of the event using eye movement. But again, MDMA is showing great, great, great results in helping people to resolve it because they're able to sit with it and be with it and actually see it for what it was. And that rewires what's going on in the brain.
Wow, fascinating. Now we get many people who listen and who want to walk away with some tangible things that they could do
Mm-hmm.
to create a better life. So, what are some daily habits that you can give our listeners to start doing
Hmm.
right now that can help them create not only the life they love, but a life where they're right here, right now?
Okay, so first thing, meditate. Just, there are so many meditation apps out there, so many things you can look on YouTube, you can download meditation apps. Start a meditation practice. And here's what I get when I say that to people. Oh, I can't meditate. My mind races all over the place. Well, welcome to the human experience, folks. Everybody's mind races. It's the monkey mind. It's what it is. The stream of consciousness never stops. It's always flowing. Yes, that's why they call it a practice. So you practice. And let me tell you, I was diagnosed years ago with ADHD. I have a meditation practice. So if you think that I'm going to give you a pass because you think you have ADHD, wrong. So start a meditation practice because that's a great way every single day, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you can manage, just start. And these apps are great because they give you a little guided meditation. And, as you go through over time, you'll develop that ability to, what it does is it creates the ability to have awareness of what's going on in your brain. Like you notice your thoughts as they're happening. And then in a moment, when you have to, when something happens and you have a thought about it, you are actually able to make a decision because you have the awareness that you've created using meditation. So that's number one. Second thing, try breath work. I mean, breath work, there are a lot of great apps. One of them I use is called Othership, and I love that app for breath work. And, you know, breath work, it's something we do. I mean, we breathe 20,000 times a day on average, right? We just do it automatically. And when you meditate, by the way, a lot of times the meditation will be focused on your breath. It's because it's always there, and we never focus on it. So it's like an anchor point. But with breath work, you can actually change the state of your whole being. Like you can change, you know, you can go from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous response. You can create a psychedelic experience if you do a particular breath work practice. You know, I had a oh my gosh, I had such a cathartic, transformative moment during the retreat that I was just on with a facilitated breathwork session that my partner Ronen facilitated, where I was able to resolve something that I'd been carrying around since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Like done, gone, resolved, not an issue in my life anymore, free from it in one 45-minute breathwork session. So I'm, you know, these things aren't just, you know, nice to have, maybe create. These things are transformative, powerful tools in your life. And I just do it. Just start.
So meditate, breath work.
You're worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
You know, I'm you know me, I'm a huge fan of movement, so I always like to say exercise. You know, any exercise that you can get. But I will say, if you can get out in nature, if you can take your shoes and socks off and put your feet in the dirt or the sand or the grass at least once a day, and I don't care where you live, I don't care if you got to go snow walking, you know, get your feet on the ground. If you can do that, it is, you know, it literally changes your body. Like it changes your blood. There are studies that have been done about what they call grounding. And when you ground, it changes you fundamentally. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to live on this spectacular farm. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. So every day I take a walk right down to the water, and I am barefoot, and it has changed everything for me.
And none of this is expensive. None of this is
No.
complicated. None of this is something
Great.
that you could say, oh my God, I don't have time for any of this. So get to work. Meditate, breath work, exercise. Stephen, anything else you want to add before we complete? Because we are almost at the top of the hour.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to start labeling Mark as my brother from another mother. Just saying.
I know. I know. I know.
Love you, brother. Love you.
I almost thought the same. Mark, how can people find you, learn more about your work, connect with you?
So you can reach me. My website is www.nurse-mark.com. Medicine Men will be coming soon, but nurse-mark.com is my website. Emails mark@nurse-mark.com. And and so I'm around. I'm all over the place. You can get me on social media at Nurse Mark and Nurse Mark W on Instagram, and do a lot of speaking events as well. So keep an eye out. You'll meet me somewhere.
And one thing I can absolutely guarantee you is 1 minute with Mark will make you smile, will make you feel much better about life than the minute before you met Mark. Just saying. For sure.
Thanks, Felix.
Mark, thank you so much for being with us. This is an open invitation. You are welcome to come back anytime. I know there's plenty more we could be talking about. So I am making an open invite for you to come back. And thank you for, of course, once again, sharing your time and your attention so generously with us. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Elix, and always a pleasure to be here with you guys. Love you both very much, and thanks again for the opportunity to chat with you this afternoon.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
And Stephen, with that said, we are at the top of the hour. One thing I do want to say briefly is people have asked me plenty about Puerto Rico. How's my family? My family's doing fine. My mom is fine. The house is fine. Puerto Rico's not necessarily fine. There's still many, 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 the majority of Puerto Rico without power, many without water. So unfortunately, 5 years after Maria, we are still struggling as an island. So keep your prayers coming because they do need that, and then some. Having said that, Stephen, anything else that you want to add? Tell people where they can find you. Anything else that you want to share with our
Just
listeners today?
Just find me, Stephen the Medium, on my website, on social media, Stephen the Medium. You can check out everything that's going on, and there is a lot going on and coming up.
You do have two major events happening, so you want to tell them briefly what those two events are?
Yes, I have one October 31st at Water's Edge. As a matter of fact, I just submitted all that stuff for my computer guy, who's amazing, put it up on my website so I can get it on social media. But Water's Edge on October 31st, 6 o'clock. I'm going to be doing readings in Water Edge Theater, Cinema, and then we're going to, they're going to screen a fabulous Halloween movie, which is really cool. In November 6th, I'm really excited. I'll be in Taunton at Forest. Oh boy, I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, I do. Forest Family Fun Center, and it is a fundraiser for roller skating, and it's going to go to Silver City Skating Club, and they're fabulous. So that's November 6th, and I can't wait for that. It's a Sunday at 5:30 to 7:30.
And they're very groovy. If you haven't seen what roller skating today looks like, it's just freaking off the hook. Amazing. And Water's Edge is in Provincetown, Massachusetts, because I don't think you said the name of the town. So if you're in New England, Massachusetts, there's no excuse. You can come see Stephen at one of those two events, or you can call and make a personal appointment with Stephen. How about that?
That's right.
Well, and for me, you can find me at Coach Helix. And again, thank you. Thank you, Mark, for producing the show as always. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.